Wellness begins where play, pleasure, and the parasympathetic meet. You were born to be you, and you were born to be well. Your body is always trying to find its way back to health. Now, here is the host of Your Healing Playground with Dr. Tina Koopersmith.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, whenever it is time-wise. You are listening to Your Healing Playground. I am your host, Dr. Tina Koopersmith, your witchy doctor and change advocate. We are on the Inspired Choices Network, where we are networking, connecting to inspire better living. And today I'm going to continue my theme about camp and summer camp, because I'm all about healing. I'm about healing through play, healing through your body, healing through somatic experiencing, even though I've lived most of my life in my head, right? And camp, I realized when I look back, my favorite time of the year was summer, and my favorite time of the year was summer because I went to summer camp. I started going to summer camp. First it was day camp, then it was sleepaway camp. I started sleepaway camp at 7, almost 8 years old, started regular day camp at like 5, right? My kids started going to day camps at about 4 or 5. And to me, camp is synonymous in a sense with summer. And I really feel that camp is such an experiential learning playground that so much learning and healing actually happens or can happen in a camp environment. And I want to talk about that because we live in a world with so much structure and kids having to sit for so long in schools, and the freedom to learn experientially is not only a learning experience, but it expands the body and helps the body heal. And for me, camp was somewhat synonymous about campfires, lakes, cabins, nature. It's a lot of outdoor experiences. And school, we played on the yard in school, but when I bring to mind school, it's desks and indoors and structured activities ruled by the adults. And camp was, obviously the adults ruled it and set up the structure, but it felt more like, I guess I would say, a Montessori playground where the children got to participate in making choices, and they felt witnessed, they felt counted as a vital part of making decisions. Their opinions were valued. While there was winning and losing at games, there wasn't the same scorecards of A, B's, and C's. And I even laugh because by the time I got to medical school, there was so much cutthroatness in a lot of schooling that my medical school actually tried to say it was honors, pass, fail. And the joke among our friends in the medical school class was P equals MD. Pass equals a medical doctor degree. And by the time we got the degree, nobody was going to know whether you passed with honors or you just passed. And it wasn't that you didn't want to do your best, but the eliminating that the A, B, C, D, the 100, 99, 93, 85, 80, the elimination of those levels of distinction in medical school, at least in my medical school, highly encouraged collaborative learning. And it wasn't about who was going to win and who was going to lose and who was going to get kicked out. Whereas my father, when he went to medical school, I remember the story of him saying, look to your right and your left. By the time you graduate, some of you won't have made it through. Their goal was to really kick people out instead of expanding the learning to make sure everybody learned. And camp was about collaboration. There was friendly competition, but it really was a collaborative experience. There was so many opposites that in my mind seemed to work collaboratively so well. And I want to say, like, I went to camp alone. I had older siblings. Um, and so much of my life at home, I was alone. I was in the first year, I did go to camp with my sister, sleepaway camp. The second year, my brother was there. After that, I went alone without friends from home. It was like I got to invent myself separate from my school friends. I had like another whole group that became my posse, if you will. So there's alone and together. There's structure and flexibility. There was very much in my summer camp, very ritualized. This is how we do the day. There was morning wake up times, morning music to reveille. There was lineup and, brush your teeth, go online. Everybody in the camp had to count off and be counted. So we could not go to breakfast until every camper was accounted for. And again, everyone was seen as equally important. But we were also bunks, right? So you were alone and together. There was structure. And then in that structure, we had periods, again, it was very routinized. There was, wake up, morning flag time, breakfast, cleanup, period 1, period 2, period 3, lunch, rest hour, period 4, period 5, period 6, lineup, dinner. And then free play, and then evening activity. And then each group, depending on their age, had different bedtimes. So very structured. And yet in that structure, day to day, periods 1, 2, and 3 varied. There was always some choice. So kids at different ages got more ability to choose more, but some kids could do A, some kids could do B. So again, children had choice. So there's structure and flexibility. Again, we did a lot of team playing, but also there was a lot of creative arts, which you may have done by yourself. If you're drawing or building things, or you're swimming as a group, and yet you may be doing one kind of swim and someone else may be doing another. Maybe it's boating and you get to choose which kind of boat: canoe, rowboat, sailboat. So again, there's choice and structure. You're alone or with others. Again, I mentioned before, you're learning continuously because children are always curious and always learning, but we didn't really have the feeling of grades, and therefore, you might be the best at something and your team might win and your team might lose, but it was a different kind of failure because it wasn't like you were going to get a report card at the end and how many things did you win at and how many things did you lose at. So it was experiential experiences. There was nature and nurture of families, right? So I have a biological family, but there's also my camp family, which helped me also separate my school family, right? And we got to learn from other people. We do as a family X, Y, and Z, but your family does it A, B, C. And so there's this deep connection and comparison, but without better or worse, an acceptance of diversity and difference. And what else? We had, again, I talked about same and difference. There was rest and movement, and we absolutely celebrated running around, athletics, being active in our little children's bodies, but there were also activities that were less active. And some children did better in the creative, quiet, still activities, and other children did better in the more active ones. And so, again, it was a celebration and a mixture. So, my camp was a very multi-dimensional camp with all different kinds of activities. And I'm going to speak to that later. Some people go to specialty camps, and knowing your child and knowing yourself, whether you would do better and excel better down the rabbit hole of a specialty camp or a multi-faceted camp. It's so important to know who you are, know the camp, and know your child, and also, connecting the child to the right camp. And then, but that also means that you get to know your child and your child's strengths. And I don't even like to use the word weaknesses, but what helps bring your child to life and what may detract energetically from your life. And I work with that in my patients as adults. What are your brakes? What pulls you down and drains your energy? And what are your accelerators? What light you up? And when we go back to remembering childhood, when we weren't forced to live in a box of conformity, then sometimes we can reconnect with our inner selves in a way that our adult self has been trained out of. And so I want to celebrate when we let children experience life with more freedom and more choice, and summer as a state of mind of choice. Then the children get to listen within to the inspiration from within, the desire and curiosity that bubbles up from their own unique energetic blueprint that is different from their siblings, their parents, their friends, their extended family. And this is so critical, not only to develop the essential self of the human, but as a almost as a flagpole of alignment to constantly retouch base with for yourself. It's like your spine of who you are. And again, we're going to talk about flexibility and structure. And if we can imagine that if we are living in heart, mind, and spirit alignment, and the spine, like the true nature of who we are and what we like, is bubbling up from within, and we learn that and it's celebrated as children, then we have the ability in our teen years, our preteen years, which are those awkward middle years that are really, really difficult, and beyond, even in high school, college, corporate life, or entrepreneur life, or physician life, whatever it is. Can we get back to the essential self of who we really are before all the labels, all the identities, all the giving to everybody else, and being a human that has so many facets and so many layers? It's like if we're a crystalline structure and we have all these different labels on us, are we missing the beauty of the crystal inside? It's almost like stained glass colors us, and we can't get the clarity of who we're supposed to be. And so I invite the summer as a state of mind, camp as an experience, a camp-like family atmosphere in the summer, to allow your child the curiosity to become and express and feel into what bubbles up from the inside. And on that note, we're going to take our first break. And perhaps during this break, you entertain, who were you when you were 3, 4, 5, 7, 9, and what feels authentic to you. You are listening to Your Healing Playground. I am your host, Dr. Tina Coopersmith. We are on the Inspired Choices Network, and come right back where I play with some of these polarities, these complementary, or otherwise we call them opposites, so you can see how essential they all are and how we can play with them.
Your Healing Playground is the space where science, spirit, and sensation dance together. Your host, Dr. Tina Coopersmith, physician, coach, healer, and play advocate, returns weekly to remind you that healing isn't just about pills and protocols. Western medicine is just one of many healing modalities. True wellness is about energy, emotion, pleasure, and play. On this show, Dr. Tina explores the playground of your body, mind, heart, and soul. From neuroscience to sensuality, from root chakra to real talk. She'll share tools, stories, and soulful strategies to shift you out of fear and back into joy. Because if you're alive and breathing, your story is still unwritten, and you deserve to write it with love. Together, you'll learn to breathe, feel, and play your way back to wellness, because you are your best healer.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is Your Healing Playground with Dr. Tina Coopersmith. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send an email to info@womensreproduction.com. Now, back to our program.
Welcome back, my friends. Once again, you are listening to Your Healing Playground, where we talk about healing through play. I am your host, Dr. Tina Coopersmith. We are on the Inspired Choices Network, and I highly, highly, highly ask for a favor. Can you go out and support me by sharing this podcast with your friends? Can you subscribe on Apple, iTunes, or Spotify? Can you subscribe? And can you buy my book of the same name, Your Healing Playground? The more people hear this, the more I hope that the world learns that there are ways to do life that can help your body heal through knowing yourself, through playing, through really understanding what gives your body the turn on, what lights you up, and can you identify the brakes that slow you down? Your body is an energy machine, and when you're living in your brakes, which are often the inner voices and the inner critics and the feeling shut down, confined, conformity, that can drain you, and draining you may lead to bad choices of movement or lack thereof, food choices. And so I invite you to learn about your accelerators, what turns you on, what lights you up, what is your essential self wanting you to do in this life, this one beautiful life that you have, and what are the brakes that are holding you back. And I bring this up because today, again, I'm talking about summer camp and how so much of who I am was shaped in those summers. And I mentioned in the first part about families, right? So I lived in a family very much. I grew up in Western medicine because my father was a surgeon. My mother was a teacher. And so I grew up very much in science, logic. This is how it's done. This is how it's structured. This is what we've learned. And science tells us this is correct. And that is so amazing and true. And science is what we know today. And there's stuff that we don't know today that is the unknown. It is what scientists are always trying to set out to understand and to learn. And so if science is here, just beyond science, above here is the unknown, the stuff we still don't know. And I grew up, with Newtonian physics and competition and survival of the fittest and living from your brain and working really hard. And the more you work and the more you push and effort and just really, really pushing my life and trying to control my life to get where I wanted to go, which is great. And I've had an amazing life and I've learned so much and I love it. But beyond the science is the unknown. It's what hasn't been discovered yet. And we can play in that place as well. That's the magic of life. That's the coincidences in life. That's also leading from the heart and the connection that we know exists because we feel it. But logic can't explain that heart-to-heart connection. Logic can't explain how I hear your tone of voice and that affects my body. And I might not listen to what you tell me to do because I don't like your tone of voice. And so I lived in a world of there is one way to do life, the way my parents told me to do life. Lead with your head, lead with your brain. Make sure the most important thing you ever do is get an education. Oh, and by the way, creativity and music and sports and being outside and journaling, reading were important as hobbies and things that they knew it changed the brain for the better, but they didn't understand it to the same way. And it was again about structured learning and not the creative force of making music just like jazz, improvisational. It was about, take lessons and learn how to play piano. And when I went to summer camp, I got an experience that not every family did things the way my family did things. And not every adult had the same way of strict regimented living or always prioritized schoolwork over athletics. And there were adults who celebrated arts and crafts and wrote music and wrote lyrics and poems and poetry. And so I got to experience that there are many ways to do a life and many ways for people to excel at life. I also got to see that I could be the best in the classroom, but I'm not always the best on the baseball field. And other humans had different talents. And so diversity felt very natural at camp. Allowing diversity, celebrating diversity, and knowing that there was a way to do life, even just the experience of doing life in a summer camp was an experience that was a different way to do life than the way I did it during the year at school. And so that meant, wow, if I can experience life in a summer camp, what would it be like to experience life in a boarding school? I got a taste of what it would be like to do life in college. So also for me, summer camp really prepared me for college and the freedom that I was given in college because I already knew how to have structure when I was given freedom. I knew that I could have free play, but if I wanted to get good grades, I still had to study. And so the ability to give a child independence and choice when they're young actually allows them to experiment with how they will handle choice and structure when they are on their own. So also, I'm going to mention that being a camper, you learn that other adults do life differently. You learn that your choices matter and that your choices can be different than others, and you have to hold a place for others to have different ideas and have a yes and rather than an either or kind of mentality. We learned that everybody has different talents, that there are multiple backgrounds, multiple different body types that lend themselves perhaps to excelling in different sports or different talents musically, artistically, athletically. A great swimmer wasn't always the best runner. In my summer camp, one of my favorite activities was during what we called color war. The color war itself was super fun. I was competitive, always competitive. And we broke the camp into two teams and they competed over 4 days and we competed on everything. We competed not only on athletics, but it was like how good you could make your bed, how tight you could make the hospital corners with the sheets. We competed on how clean the bunks got. We competed on singing and changing songs and how unique those songs were, banners, plaques, there was art, there was so much. But my favorite part was the entire camp got involved in what we called the Apache Relay. And basically there were like 100 activities, give or take, from playing jacks going from up to 10 and back to holding an egg, on a spoon and walking from one place to the other without breaking the spoon, to hitting basketball, free throws or baseball. So it was athletic, it was singing, it was swimming, it was all so many different activities. But the key was every child, from the youngest child, age 4, to the oldest camper, age 18 or so, everyone on that team had to participate in one activity, and no one could go twice unless everyone participated in one activity. And it was a race between the two teams, and you had to figure out someone might be good at 3 things, but they could only do one. And someone may not be good at almost anything, but you had to figure out what they were best at. And the entire team was rooting for them to do their best. And so you had this camaraderie, this celebration, and this awareness that everybody mattered. Now, when we're adults, at least so often now we get hit with labels, siloing, over-identification, social media hits young and old with comparisons. And what if we remember that everybody really has their special talents and you don't have to do just one thing, you could do many things. And simultaneously, you really do have a light to shine that there are no mistakes in nature. and everyone is here to shine their light. And on that note, we're going to take a break. Once again, you're listening to Your Healing Playground. I am your host, Dr. Tina Coopersmith, and we are on the Inspired Choices Network. And I promised you an experience. When you come back, we are going to do an experience.
Your Healing Playground is the space where science, spirit, and sensation dance together. Your host, Dr. Tina Coopersmith, physician, coach, healer, and play advocate, returns weekly to remind you that healing isn't just about pills and protocols. Western medicine is just one of many healing modalities. True wellness is about energy, emotion, pleasure, and play. On this show, Dr. Tina explores the playground of your body, mind, heart, and soul. From neuroscience to sensuality, from root chakra to real talk. She'll share tools, stories, and soulful strategies to shift you out of fear and back into joy. Because if you're alive and breathing, your story is still unwritten, and you deserve to write it with love. Together, you'll learn to breathe, feel, and play your way back to wellness, because you are your best healer.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is Your Healing Playground with Dr. Tina Coopersmith. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send an email to info@womensreproduction.com. Now, back to our program.
Welcome back, my friends. Once again, this is Your Healing Playground, the podcast with me as your host, Dr. Tina Coopersmith. We are on the Inspired Choices Network, and you can follow me at drtinaplays.com or womensreproduction.com. Please note the goal is to have some online community forming at the end of spring, beginning of summer. And also on the radar, plans is retreats for more experiential experiences for wellness and improving your life to help coach you back to your best life, help you identify those brakes and those accelerators, help you metabolize your emotions and your stories. Just like we metabolize air, food, and water, we need to metabolize our stories and our emotions, all that energy within, because when we metabolize the energy within, we go from mindful with 2 L's. We keep what works and let go of the waste, and we become mindful with 1 L. We become lighter, more creative, and way less stuck in living in conformity and survival mode. And you get to create your life, not react to it. And we're going to play with some of that today. I want to remind you that I mentioned how I grew up with my father's version of Western medicine. Do it his way. Life had to be done his way. And much of Western medicine's teachings is name it to tame it. It's listening to the human, giving a diagnosis, which also makes people feel broken. They're labeled. They give this diagnosis is like, I have X, I am X. And that feels like you're slapping a label on it to me, as opposed to you're experiencing X. No, I have it. It's stuck. I'm going to have it forever. And I invite in the challenge to that. So in my mind, healing is done in collaboration and connection, which is what I brought to my exam room when I started taking care of patients. And I didn't even realize that I was doing it different. It was just such a part of my essential self that it made sense to listen, witness, collaborate, accept diversity, accept a human story, and believe. I had a deep belief that healing can be done in the body, that if you change how you live, how you think, where you live, your energy state, diabetes could get better, hypertension could get better, heart disease could even improve. I just had this intuitive knowing and awareness that one day's experience is not tomorrow's. And I think it was because my winter experience was so different than my summer experience. I was also a bit of a rebel. And so if my dad said this is how it was, I was going to look for a way for it to be different. And so for me, I just want to put out there, I think Western medicine, allopathy 1.0 is name it to tame it. 2.0 is feel it to heal it. And that's really, really important. And the third, where I'm going now, is collaborate to liberate. When we work in tandem, in connection, in collaboration, we as a society and as individuals can liberate our stuckness to the brain as a tyrant, and we become more of a collaborative instrument, an ecosystem to connect energy and matter from this universe to the quantum universe to create rather than react in our life. And so what I want to do now is play with the opposites, the complementary opposites. Now, you can't have good without bad. They're relative. You can't have yin without yang. They're relative. You can't have tall without short. Tall compared to what? I look tall compared to an ant, but compared to Shaquille O'Neal, I'm tiny. So these are all comparisons, but comparisons always are in flux and flow and moving. And so such an important comparison. And again, summer camp versus winter school. We talked about structure and flexibility. Energy is flexible. Matter is more rigid. It has form. So let's play with structure and flexibility. And you might see structure as something rigid and flexibility as something very playful. And that may be how your brain pulls them to mind. I invite you to play with this experience. And if they start to overlap, don't fight your brain. Allow your brain and your body to do whatever your body wants to do. So, step one, let's get into our body, out of our mind with a big, deep breath. And hold it. And now exhale. And I invite the breath with the breathe and squeeze technique that I spoke to you in the past, where your body is very rigid because you're making your muscles tight while the energy is flowing. Hold it at the top and then let it all go. And one more. Squeeze and breathe in through your bottom, in through your heart, in through your head. One last sniff. Be really, really rigid. Really, really rigid. Ooh, structure. And then open your mouth and let it go and let the breath come out as flexible breath. Ah. And then bring to mind structure. Close your eyes and really thoughts, images, emotions, body sensations, let structure show up. Really feel into structure. And I'll do this with you. And then I invite you to whisper to yourself a word that comes to mind with structure. house, or body. Now, breathe that in, breathe it out, let it go away, and bring to mind flexibility. Thoughts, images, emotions, body sensations of flexibility. And really feel flexible. Notice the thoughts, notice the images, notice the body sensations, notice the emotions that come with the word flexible. And really imagine flexible, be flexible, embody flexible. And then say something out loud about flexible. And let that float away and go back to structure and be structure. Thoughts, images, emotions, body sensations, be present to structure. Rigidity, structure, what are the thoughts, the images, the emotions, the body sensations that come with structure? And say something out loud about it. And then let it float away. And come back to flexibility, flexible, and really go deep into flexible. What does flexible mean to you? How does flexible feel to you? What are the thoughts, the images, the emotions that go with flexible? And say something out loud about flexible. And then breathe that in and out, let that go, and flip back to structure. And go back to that rigidity of structure, ritual, matter, and really say something. Feel into structure and say something out loud about structure. And then let it go and flip back to flexible and feel into flexible. Allow flexible to show up and say something out loud about it. And then breathe it in, breathe it out, let that go. And I invite you to feel structure and flexibility simultaneously at the same time. Structure, flexible, flexible, structure. Structure, flexible, flexible, structure. Really feel them both at the same time. And just notice what happens. They may start being a little less structured and a little less flexible. They may start to come together. Breathe it in, breathe it out, let it go. And I'm going to go through a little bit faster. Feel structure. Structure, structure, structure. Thoughts, images, emotions, body sensations. Be structure. And say something out loud about it. And let it float away. And bring up flexibility. And really embody flexibility. Thoughts, images, emotions, body sensations. Be flexible and say something out loud about it. And let it float away. And then be structure. Feel into structure, experience structure. And let it float away after saying something out loud about structure. And then feel flexible and say something out loud about it. And then flip to structure, experience structure, and say something out loud about it. And let it go and experience flexible and say something out loud about it. And feel structure and say something out loud about it. And feel flexible and say something out loud about it. And then feel structure and flexible together simultaneously. Structure, flexible, flexible, structure. Structure, flexible, flexible, structure. Structure, flexible, flexible, structure. Feel them together. Breathe it in, breathe it out, let it go. And I'm going to go super fast. Bring up structure. Say something out loud about it. Bring up flexible and say something out loud about it. flip back to structure and say something out loud. I'm particularly going fast on purpose. Say something feel into flexible and say something out loud about it. And structure and give it a word. Flexible, give it a word. Structure and flexible, feel them both simultaneously. Simultaneously feel structure, feel flexible, flexible structure, structure, flexible, flexible structure. And if you've reached the point where they've merged, just sit with the merging while we take our break. If you have not had them merge, I invite you to keep flipping back and forth and then experience them together while we take our last and final break. Once again, you are listening to Your Healing Playground. I am Dr. Tina Coopersmith, your host. We are on the Inspired Choices Network, and please come right back.
Your Healing Playground is the space where science, spirit, and sensation dance together. Your host, Dr. Tina Coopersmith, physician, coach, healer, and play advocate, returns weekly to remind you that healing isn't just about pills and protocols. Western medicine is just one of many healing modalities. True wellness is about energy, emotion, pleasure, and play. On this show, Dr. Tina explores the playground of your body, mind, heart, and soul. From neuroscience to sensuality, from root chakra to real talk. She'll share tools, stories, and soulful strategies to shift you out of fear and back into joy. Because if you're alive and breathing, your story is still unwritten, and you deserve to write it with love. Together, you'll learn to breathe, feel, and play your way back to wellness, because you are your best healer. This is Your Healing Playground with Dr. Tina Coopersmith. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send an email to info@womensreproduction.com. Now, back to our program.
Welcome back, my friends. You once again are back with me, Dr. Tina Coopersmith, on the podcast Your Healing Playground. We are on the Inspired Choices Network. I invite you once again to support me by sharing this with friends, and support the podcast by signing up, subscribing, and sharing it with friends. And perhaps you can support me by checking out my website, drtinaplays.com, womensreproduction.com, and buying my book, Your Healing Playground, or my children's books, Who Am I? What Am I? And before the break, we did an experience where you moved and felt structure and flexibility. And ideally, over time, they start to merge, and you start realizing there can be flexibility in structure and structure in flexibility. If you look at your body, you see a physical body. It is a structure, without a doubt. There are bones and ligaments and organs, and yet there's flexibility. Those bones are really, really rigid when we look at them. But if we look at the structure inside the bones, it's atoms and molecules that line up in such a way to make the bones strong. But if the energy changes, those bones may become brittle and have osteoporosis because the structure becomes more flexible. The energy bonds are changed. And indeed, some would say there's inflammation in the bones, which makes the bones break down and become more brittle. Similarly, your muscles and tendons are very flexible. Think gymnastics and shock absorbers and flexibility to bend and at all your joints, right? But if they get inflamed and they get crystallized and the energy bonds are tighter, those inflamed joints can become rigid and they don't move. You get a frozen shoulder, or your knee doesn't bend as well. So ironically, right, inflammation can lead to a breakdown in structure or a breakdown in flexibility. Even the image of humans as structures, we indeed are physical structures, but underneath that physical structure is the energy attracting molecule to molecule, atom to atom, molecule to molecule, atom to atom. And there's all this constant change in the cells, constant change in the microbiome, which are the bacteria cells that line everything in our bodies. And so we see human because we've been trained structurally to visualize a human, but under that structure of the human is the energy of life flowing through it. You know, you have a live body and a dead body, and they're both the same structure, but what's missing is the energy, which is molecule to molecule change, moving electrons, moving breath, moving blood, and even seeing the human as an ecosystem of bacteria and human cells. And constancy, I see a constant human, although I'm always changing, right? The lines in my face show me the wrinkles of time, right? I'm never the same human today or tomorrow. But we also have a structure that says past, present, future. There's a straight line of time. And what if I told you that by manipulating your thoughts, manipulating your emotions, and manipulating your alignment, heart, mind, and soul, and checking in with soul alignment, breath alignment, there is an attachment to the quantum field of physics so that time can change and not be linear. That's what Einstein taught us, the theory of relativity. And the simplest way to think about that is one day in the life of a 1-year-old feels like an eternity, and one day in the life of a middle-aged woman like myself feels like a blip in time. So there's this relativity, this flexibility in the structure we call time. What can you do in your 40 minutes of a day? And I can have the same structure, 40 minutes in my day, but I can perhaps have the flexibility to arrange my day structure to have a completely different day. So flexibility and structure. Camp, my friends, is a state of mind. It is the complementarity of opposites. It's diversity. It's curiosity. It's experiencing life and learning through experience, through flexibility in structure and flexibility. And I invite you to breathe into how can you have structure in your day that provides you more flexibility to be more of your essential self and not your social self. Can you find the accelerators in you that help you light up the energy that makes you feel alive and give a little less credence to the imposition and structures and voices in your head that perhaps came with the generation above us that kept us limited because we are limitless to your health and beyond through experiencing life and not having life imposed upon you. May you celebrate who you are always, and may you walk through life, whether you're well or ill, is a state of mind. So may your state of mind be summer, flexibility.
If you felt something move today, a molecule, a mindset, or your mood, that's healing. Your body listens to your stories, your thoughts, your breath. So speak to yourself with kindness, play with curiosity, and let your nervous system know it's safe to rest. Dr. Tina returns Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central, 9 Mountain, 8 Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Remember, pleasure is a practice and play is your medicine.